I will tell you that, I won't get into specifics, but there are people inside the United States government that are taking this serious. It's a pretty lonely universe. I asked my astrophysics prof that once. I said, you believe in extraterrestrial life? And she's like, of course not. And I said, well, there's billions and billions of planets. You think we're it? If we're the only ones around, and everything I'm looking at, it's a pretty sad place.
Here's the deal. Sometimes I think people have a real experience and they're always like chasing that dragon, and they get UFO disease and the brain goes fucking berserk, right? I know that there are people that have had profound experiences and then they can't ever replicate them, so then they just start going crazy. And I don't blame them for it. But you got someone like Commander Fravor, when he saw that AAV, anomalous aerospace vehicle, his reaction was, I want to fly it. This idea that, maybe we're not alone, that some of these other stars have planets that are maybe technologically advanced. So the next thing people say, and new eras are going to say, well, they're not coming here because the distance is so vast. Hold the fuck up. From the very beginning, when Bob Lazar came forward and talked about field propulsion, gravity propulsion, distance becomes completely irrelevant. So that's why you can make those maneuvers without exploding, okay? Then distance becomes completely irrelevant for travel. You're literally warping time and space. You're falling into place. He has to view it through where he saw it in 1989. However, I will say this, it is my knowledge that we understand exactly how these craft work. Our one limiting factor is our material science. We can't replicate. The fuel source itself is another.
When you say we know exactly how they work.
Yeah, it doesn't break our laws of physics. There was a back engineering program. They've admitted there are materials, so this is like the metamaterials you heard about in the New York Times, all that. We have materials associated with UFOs that are interesting. There is studies being done right now on materials associated with UFOs, right? So actual metals that have come off of, you could say, crashes, or like when things will come off, some of these materials, and what they will find, because the ones they're talking about, I actually took to New Mexico and had 5 scientists study it about 5 years ago. I got my hands on it, got to study it, the famous parts they're talking about now. Okay, well, there are a lot of different samples. So that's allegedly, or there's a known crash. This is in the public domain rather than government controlled. So what I was looking at, or having the scientists look at, is what are the elements that are in this? Are they engineered?
What's interesting though is I was reading one of these stories, and they passively mentioned that the sighting was near a U.S. naval technology station of some sort, like a top secret development. And I'm like, we've slowly been getting more and more information about this. I've been actually reading a lot of these stories over the past several months. More admissions from government, more release of documents, and more sightings. So there's been a big, I don't want to call it, well, a lot of people murmuring that April was going to be the month when we finally learned the truth. Do you know about the O'Hare Airport sighting? So this was, I think, in 06 at Chicago's International O'Hare. A UFO came down and hovered above, I can't remember which terminal it was. It hovered for a few minutes, I think, and then shot straight, punched a hole in the clouds. Everybody saw it happen. Now, I had just quit working at O'Hare around this time when the sighting happened, and that the people who were working where we worked for American Eagle Airlines, walked out of the rooms and were just staring at it float and then shoot up and punch a hole in the clouds. And you know what they said? Weather phenomenon. And I wonder, where have all the sightings gone since phones became ubiquitous? I mean, this is a simple, I guess, excuse. The aliens, they're sentient. They know we have phones. They're like, okay, stop, decloaking or whatever. There's a few issues I see in terms of aliens and Earth contact, right? We are substantially more connected, in an evolutionary chain to ants than we are to any alien. So we can't communicate with them for the most part. We kind of can. We understand how they communicate. But when an ant sees a superhighway, this is someone else's quote, they don't think twice. So it's possible there are aliens that have superhighways right above us. We can't tell what it is. Same as a dog doesn't understand other than stay away from it. But one of the issues I think is often neglected in the conversation about aliens is we assume aliens would be on a very similar planet to us. We assume that they would have some kind of gaseous atmosphere, perhaps it's a liquid atmosphere. I'm sure there's an answer. Let's say you have a species that lives on a planet with no oxygen and has no access to fire. What energy, what dense energy source do they have that will allow them to manipulate matter? The challenge with any theory, I don't like saying conspiracy theory because they're not always conspiracies, is that people want something to be true, And so they end up looking for things to justify what they think it already is.
Of course.
Instead of starting with what you've got and trying to figure out where it goes from there. What if we're in a simulation and this was something that was leftover code?
Because people confuse all the time, like we took the video. No, it was another crew that took the video. We watched it for 5 minutes with our eyeballs, and there was 4 of us. And we all have the same story. We all saw the same stuff. We all came back and looked at each other and scratched our head and said, WTF, serious? What was that? And then what do? You move on. We never saw it again. I imagine they probably saw them on radar after that. But, for a ship, when they see something and, you go, what is that? Well,
Right.
you don't have any way to go out there and look at it. And he's telling us, hey, for the last 2 weeks, we've been tracking these things.
Right.
And we don't know what they are. There's other situations that have happened out there, but I would say, for this, I don't even know. One, you got to take it serious.
Yeah.
We have a tendency, if we don't know what it is, if we just ignore it, it'll go away. And I joke, there was an incident it's probably not too far off the same time frame, where I think it was the Constellation was doing her workups before she got decommissioned. And then it's like, go to battle stations, World War III. How did this foreign submarine get in our area and has been monitoring our workups? That's a big deal.
Right.
I said, but now we go out and we have these things that are coming at will, and there's nothing we can do about it. We don't know what they are. We have confirmed sighting by 2 aircrew, 4 of us, 2 planes, that said, look, this is not an airplane, this is not a weather balloon, this is not a blip, it has performance well beyond, and the airplanes that we were flying at the time were literally brand new Super Hornets right out of the Boeing factory. These were brand new, first Block 2 series that came out. And you go, why wasn't something done? It's like, we don't know what it is. I think it's good now, the moves that have happened over the last, 2 years since the original article came out, that, there's a new reporting for the pilots. The Navy's acknowledged, hey, these things, we don't know what they were. They're starting to take it serious because, I know there are other events that are not out, recent events where people have been called in to go, hey, I've seen this thing. So the investigation process is still going on. We don't stop. The military doesn't stop. Even if you take funding away, we don't stop. We don't stop until we're told to stop. So, what's going on? You go, well, ATIP ended. They spent $4.5 million a year on it. I think it was $22 million over the 5 years. So you go, what are they doing since then? Well, I'm pretty sure there's still people looking at this, and there's still people that are taking this serious. I will tell you that I won't get into specifics, but there are people inside the United States government that are taking this serious. And I've been down to DC twice to talk to folks, behind closed doors, to go, because they want to hear the story. And I've got a lot of, you got to be joking. This seriously happened, and I'm like, yeah, it did happen, and it is real. What are you doing about it? High-level government officials is what I'll say. And most of that is because that conversation is between me and them, and I don't want people speculating, but you can say high-level government officials I have talked to. So when you talk about that and you go, well, it's still another 100 years, so you go, well, we still don't understand it. And how fast would it take us to understand that?